Coming up, what an excellent day for Sows. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Minute 54 of the Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate the Exorcist minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with Sharon saying, "Yeah, but they've gotten more violent."
And it ends with Reagan saying, "Mother, please!"
I'm gonna have to reduce the volume on that, but
No, I think that accurately gets to how it sounds when you watch the movie.
Oh yeah, of course.
I don't think you don't adjust the levels. It's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, we want eardrums bleeding, folks. Yeah. No, that was good.
But no, this is tough to watch. Yeah. So I think we're gonna get kind of silly again, as we've seen.
Yeah. So fair warning, folks. Like it's gonna get silly because again, like Kinderman says, now and again, a laugh just to keep us from crying because, like, boy, do I want to cry in this minute.
Yeah.
Oy.
That's Lester's motto.
Yes, right. You're never gonna let me live that down. You know, some people don't even listen for any stingers after the music, so they don't even know what you're talking about.
I know.
Yeah. There's sometimes stuff after the music, folks. So you know, so have a listen. Yeah,
it's not ads or anything.
No, it's just us being goofy.
It's bonus content. Yeah.
Like, aren't they already goofy like before the music? Or what's
this is harder and harder to what we keep saying every time. Mm-hmm. But I guess we're gonna have fewer and fewer like calm moments eventually as we go through, right? Like resting moments.
Right. We get one that I am like so grateful for in our next minute, but yeah, they become a little bit more few and far between, and it's so it's ramping up, folks. Here is where it starts to get real. So before we see what's up with Reagan, let's go back to the top of this minute. I really like the camera work here. Again, we talked about this in the last minute. It's almost like we are another observer in this chaos, right? But who are we? Are we friend or are we foe, right?
Right.
Either way.
We have to observe just Sharon going through it, right? We're certainly... Because we start with Sharon running down the stairs and we like Sharon, right? We're like, oh gosh, this is terrible for
the family.
It'd be terrible. Yeah, exactly. It'd be terrible to be Sharon, and then we're really focusing on her, and then we're like, oh wait, there's an even worse person for this to be, which is Chris. And
right. And also Reagan, of course.
Oh yeah, God. Right. It's even worse. Yeah, exactly. So,
what are we, doctors? Like.
Right, but exactly. But yeah, we like keeping with Sharon, not quite Sharon's perspective, as you say, we're watching her and we're observing her. But yeah, but then we would transfer our point of view to Chris and
right.
Oof, and then I can't even imagine what it'd be like to be Reagan, of course.
Oh my God, yeah. Actually, no, I have like thought about that. It's like, what is it? Yeah, what does that feel like? What is she hearing? Is Captain Howdy just like jabbering at her like nonstop, or like what is going on in the head of Reagan McNeil? Right?
Yes, she does. She does give us a little some kind of clues here. I know that we're jumping ahead in the minute, but she does give us some clues because she's able to jump out of first person, being Captain Howdy, and going back to Reagan, saying things like, "He's trying to kill me," right?
Right.
Make him stop.
Yes, and there is like a part in the book where, and I think it's before this. It's another kind of like ramping up that maybe we didn't see and maybe we didn't need to see, but like in the book, there's a point where Reagan runs downstairs and she says that Captain Howdy is chasing her, and she can she can see Captain Howdy, but Chris, who's like, you know, she's running to Chris for like protection, and like Chris can't see anything obviously, but like Reagan is pointing, is like, there he is, and like she runs away, and then she falls to the floor and she says that Captain Howdy is kicking her, that he's pinching her, biting her, like all of these other things. So, and yeah, that always made me wonder, like, if we had like magic glasses, right? And we could see Captain Howdy, is like, at what points is he inside her body, and at what points is he outside of her body, like tossing her around like a rag doll, like even in this scene. And I'll save this until we see it. But like like I'm wondering about the logistics, which is not something I should be wondering about. Like I should be worried for the safety of this little girl, but
no, but again, like we I think you caught me in what a lot of audience members would do. Like we try not to think about what Reagan is going through,
right? Yeah.
Right. That we'd rather be with Chris, even though Chris's experience is so horrifying, right?
Is also like very, very hard to like even imagine, right? Like it's one thing to be like suffering yourself, but like to be witnessing somebody else that you care about, that you love, suffering, and you being powerless to do anything. That is the worst.
But this minute raises questions about, well, what has Reagan seen of Captain Howdy? Has he not been a body to her yet before she can say like, oh, he's doing this? Certainly he didn't become friends with her by looking like the Eileen Dietz Pazuzu face or the Kabuki face, right? Certainly that's not what he would, like, hey, I'm going to be your friend, right?
Right.
So if he did present a body or a face to her, it probably wasn't that. We never see anything but that.
It's making me think of the first Poltergeist where Tangina Barons, played by Zelda Rubinstein, is sort of like describing the beast to the family, right? And they're saying that she's saying how it kind of like coaxed Carol Ann, the little girl, into coming over with it, and saying it's like, oh, it lies to her, it promises her things and says to her things only a child can understand, and to her it simply is another child. But to us, it is the beast, right? I love that line, right? So, yeah, is Captain Howdy like when Reagan first meets Captain Howdy, is Captain Howdy like another kid?
Is it just a voice,
is it just a voice? Or
and it must be a voice that's nicer than the one that we're going to hear.
Imagine, imagine if there was no like pretense. If it was if it was the Eileen Dietz face and it was the Mercedes McCambridge voice, it's like, hey, how you doing? I'm Captain Howdy.
Oh, hi, Captain Howdy. I am really hard up for friends. Oh, you must be, doll. In order to, right? That explains a lot.
He's got a cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about Poltergeist like that, we talked a little bit on our previous minute about wanting to find drama. There is enough drama in this movie in the production to talk about it, obviously, but like wanting to find like Linda Blair, being repressed or having to sign contracts telling her not to badmouth the film or something like that, where we keep trying to find like where she's been exploited, the curse of the Exorcist. That Poltergeist is perhaps the movie people are thinking of when they're thinking of like, not that there's a legitimate curse on Poltergeist, but real things did happen to those people afterwards. I'm still very much a skeptic, and I'd say like, well, these are coincidences more than anything else, but there were people on the set of The Exorcist who died very, very young. Yes. I always think it's kind of silly when they're like, oh, Heather O'Rourke, who died very, very soon after the filming of Exorcist 2? 3? Yeah. Oh, she did finish 3, right? But she still died very young. All of a sudden, a really sudden childhood illness that they couldn't have discovered. And then Dominique Dunne, who did finish 3, and she was murdered by a boyfriend, right?
Oh no, I think she didn't even finish 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dominique, the big sister, right?
Oh, of course. So she's replacing this. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So she was murdered by her boyfriend, which is awful.
Right. Yes.
And so those are like legitimate things where you're like, oh, this, again, not that the movie is cursed, but it makes sense why there's this sort of, there is this talk about it. The Exorcist doesn't have that, but I always think it's silly when they're also like, oh, and then Craig T. Nelson went through a career slump afterwards. Like that's not the same thing that we're talking somebody about. Dying, as somebody dying and somebody getting murdered, right? But so there are at least those two things that people try to add more to it that isn't really even in the same realm.
And this person died, and this person died, and this person's career died.
Exactly.
Like,
no. Well, they came back afterwards. Anyways, it got better. Say, yeah.
And so again, like we're sorry, we're making light of this because again, this is like this is tough. But yeah, so okay, so getting back to The Exorcist, because that's the movie we're talking about.
Do we have to? Mom?
We do.
Talk about Exorcist? Okay.
We have to examine, extrapolate, and excavate this thing. We're digging up. We're done with all the Joseph medallions. It's all Pazuzu heads from here. But yeah, so like like we were talking about before with this camera. It's almost as if we had followed Sharon down the stairs from the previous minute, and we stopped at that little landing to watch as she lets these doctors in. They introduce themselves, and we turn our head. Right? The camera turns. We turn our head to follow them as they head back up the stairs. And now we're like walking backwards with them up the stairs. And we pass the first landing and Chris's room. And I really like how familiar we have become with just this little piece of like upstairs hallway, right? We know where everything is. And now that I think of it, this little stretch of hallway gets more time than even the downstairs areas. We get a lot of confrontations and moments before a confrontation in just this little space. And it's perfect because this space with like the one big landing and then the smaller landing provides like different heights and levels, but in this very like compact, very natural like way. Cause this is part of a house, right? It's not like, so you can have people looking up, looking down, towering over you, staring up at you. And it makes a character's height sort of obsolete because we can just, put them a step higher or lower and change the dynamic, right? And it's all natural, right? It's all part of the house. There's no standing on like hidden apple crates or like whatever, it works in the real world, right? And Friedkin mentioned something, folks, and I know we talk about Blatty and what I believe to be the themes of this story by Blatty, and Friedkin like doing a great job in translating those for the screen. But Friedkin also has his own themes, which he has been inserting into this thing. And one of them has to do with stairs and how characters interact with stairs, right? Think about, like, I'm just going to pause. Think about stairs in this movie. Like, there's scenes coming up. There's scenes that have already happened. They all got stairs in them, right? Like, think about all those stairs, right? And he says in that documentary that I mentioned, right? Leap of Faith, right? You can find it on Amazon, and I think you can find it on YouTube also. You have to pay, but it's definitely worth it. Friedkin says in that that his characters are always ascending. And I can't believe I didn't notice it until he pointed it out. But folks, look at this thing. Look at the minutes that we've already covered, and we have characters constantly ascending, right? They're walking up steps. They're walking up stairs, right? Walking up a ragged, rock-strewn hill to face a statue, right? Ascending into an attic to find the rats, right? There was a choice. We could have had all of that stuff down in the basement, right? Down equals bad, equals hell, equals the underworld, right? This house has a basement, and it's in the basement that, Captain Howdy is first mentioned. That's where the Ouija board is. He could have made this more like clean, more basic, and just be like, everything is down, not up, right? We're under the earth, right? This is the underworld. And we meet Karras. We really meet him for the first time in that subway, right? But even then, folks, go back and look. Even though it's a subway, he enters it by ascending the steps. Right. And we're not even in the middle of this movie yet. So I'm really glad we caught this, and we can talk about it here so we can catch it in real time when it happens in the future. But Keenan, I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think of all this ascending in the movie?
Yeah, it's not something I had caught, but you're absolutely right. We do have scenes where some people are going downstairs, obviously, right? Like we just saw Kitty Wynn going down, but then Mrs. Karras, Mary Karras, going down into the subway. It's pretty terrible. And
absolutely
spooky, right? We see her come up, and then she just goes right back down again. And then in that dream sequence, like I was pointing out, like Damien is coming towards us, and the way that they photograph what's behind him is this bridge where people are like going across the river or something. So behind him is basically this staircase with all these people going away from him, though. And I think that's super, super interesting to think about. Yeah, we in that scene in the basement, we don't necessarily like spend time with Chris going down the stairs. We're just kind of already there.
We're already there. Yeah. And Keenan, folks, Keenan makes a really, really good point with like with so many like scenes of characters going upstairs, it kind of like really highlights when they're not, right? Like we have like he said, like Mary Karras going down those steps. What does that mean? All these other characters going up. What does it mean that Mary Karras is going down, right?
I mean, we're not going to do it here, even though we're the people who probably should, but you could go through the film and like stopwatch it and see and compare the ratio of how much is about ascending and how much is descending.
Right. And we have,
we're not going to do it. No. we have two other things to do. Yeah.
But we will call it as we see it. We will every time it is in a minute, we're going to be like, hey, there's the ascending, descending, right?
In Friedkin's previous film, The French Connection, one of the most famous shots and scenes in the movie is on a descent down the stairs. I don't know. You haven't seen The French Connection yet, have you?
No, I haven't yet.
Well, it's so impactful that it becomes the poster for the film eventually. but it's spoilery. A friend of mine, was like, "Can you think of other posters that are the climax of the movie?" He was talking about specifically the Planet of the Apes, and how not in the original release, but later on, they use the climax of the film.
It just kind of ruins it. Yeah,
as the poster, because it's such an impactful thing. So I won't say what that is, but there's that one. But he, and we were trying to think of some of that, like the Independence Day poster is the White House blowing up, which is incredidly impactful. But that's at the beginning of the film. But yeah, I was like, where else would you like? Oh, Deep Impact is the end of the film. But I guess you want to see a comet. You're being promised a comet's going to hit the Earth, right? Yeah. But yeah, the French Connection has one of those now. The new releases of the French Connection have a spoiler on them.
Okay, so I'll have to watch the French Connection before I even see the poster.
Yeah, it's tough now. Yeah, I don't know how people see the Planet of the Apes. What you think when you look at that? What must
when I look at that, I'm like, you maniacs, you spoiled it. Like.
Right. Oh my gosh! And I'm misremembering. I'm looking at this. It's not going down the stairs. It's going up the stairs.
Oh well, there you go.
I have totally misremembered it. Of course. That is
all of that, folks.
Yeah, that is the most. I was like, the most famous shot of the French Connection is I completely misremembered it. It's going upstairs. Yes.
Well, there we go.
So it's again ascending.
Yeah, lots of ascending, right? And yeah, so. For me, for this film, for The Exorcist, when Friedkin pointed that out, like that he consciously tried to have like a lot of the characters going up stairs, I was a little confused because usually when you think like ascending, you think like moving towards some kind of grace, like we talked about, like with our Abrahamic religions, right? Like, ascending is good. We are moving closer to God. So you would think that they would always be going up to do something good. But in this movie, even though, yes, we have a lot of characters like ascending, there always seems to be something scary up there, right? Like, Chris, don't go into the attic. Why? Because you're going to die up there, right? Like up there is where all the trouble is, right? It's at the top of that hill in Iraq. It's up in the attic. It's up in that bedroom. Like even the poster, talking about posters, Keenan, right? That iconic image that everybody knows that has been like burned into our collective consciousness, right? With the lone priest in the hat and the raincoat, and he's clutching his bag as he looks where? Up. He's looking up at the source of the light, and that light, like I've spoken to folks who misremember where that light is coming from, just like they misremember like Captain Howdy having like red eyes and fangs, which he doesn't, right? They misremember the source of this iconic light. It's not the street light. The street light is there. It's giving off its own like feeble glow, sure. But that ray of light is not coming from there. It's coming from where? It's coming from up in that room, up where all the trouble is. And I'm glad we get to talk about this here. I'm glad we caught this relatively early before we were even like halfway through this thing. So now we can look for it when it pops up again. And
of course, we will spend a lot of time on that shot later on.
Yes, absolutely. Right? We'll talk about the painting, talk about like all of that stuff. Yeah. But so for this, right, like I was confused. I was like, so up is bad in this movie? Like, what's going on? But I think I figured it out. Okay. And it took me a while to figure this out. Yes, they are ascending locationally into danger, into doubt, into bad times. And at first that can be like a little confusing, a little like incongruous, but not if you see it as them ascending to a challenge. Rising to a challenge, answering a call, right? And that call is coming from on high. It's coming from a higher power, and they are rising to meet it. So locationally, yes, the trouble is up there. You might die up there. And that makes our heroes, Karis, Marin, Chris, and everyone who goes up those stairs, up into that room, that's what makes them the heroes that they are, right? They're going to it. They are rising to it again and again. That room gets visited again and again. Those stairs are climbed again as we move forward, as we rise to the challenge that is this movie, the scariest movie of all time. It may seem like those steps are increasing, are getting steeper, getting harder to climb. Our feet are getting heavier. Our hearts are getting heavier. But that doesn't stop Chris. That doesn't stop Karis or Willie or Karl or Marin or Sharon. Right? She's ascending in this minute right now. Sharon, what are you doing? You don't have to be there. You're not a priest. You're not a doctor. You're not Chris. You're not a mom. You're not related to Reagan or Chris. You can leave. But she doesn't. and nor do Willie and Karl, right? And I'm going to talk about this later, but pay attention to that. I think I called this out in an earlier minute too, right? Nobody has run screaming from this house yet, right? So
yes,
think about that.
I like what we're doing, or what Kitty Wynn is doing here. We get to see, we've talked a lot about masks and personas. Hers is not nearly as tough as Damien's is, right? That's the main one that we've been dealing with, right? But she has, we allow her to go through a bunch of changes here based on whether the doctors are seeing her or not. So she can be all business with the doctors. Let's please hurry up here. And as the camera follows her, right, we get to then see what she looks like when she is sure that the doctors are not looking at her, and she is more panicked and worried about Reagan. And so the landing is such that there's a long stretch where she's in front of the doctors, where she's a private, basically, right, where she can't be exposed. Then we get to this shorter run, this landing, and she becomes perpendicular to the doctors, and we get to see her face clamming up more. And then again, we get to the longer stretch where she get and drop that. Yes, so she's going through a bunch of really interesting colors here.
Yeah, and this is very much a Kitty Wynn, a Sharon minute here. Like, there are so many little looks that she does, and little expressions that she makes, and actions and choices and everything. And it's funny because it's like you might not be called up. You might not think that she is. Like, your eye might not fall on her at all. You might be looking at Chris. You're definitely going to be looking at Reagan. You're going to be looking like maybe everywhere except Sharon. But folks, like, if you've missed her performance in this minute, go back and look, because she is doing some really, really great stuff here.
Right. I'm glad that you talked about the design of this landing. Again, it feels like a real house. It tricks us several times, but this is on a set in New York City.
Yes.
So it's not coincidental, right? So as much as like a director has to sort of cinematize these things and put them into creation, into the physical nature of it, there's also a production designer who would be having these conversations about what kind of stairs do we want here, right? Like, nowhere in the script or in the book does it get into the details of how many steps there are on this landing or any of that stuff, right? So this is another Bill Malley, the production designer, who has to go with Billy Friedkin and think about, like, well, what are we actually going to do here, right? So the relationship with the director and any of the designers, whether it's a cinematographer or the costume designer, or the production designer, or the editor, or the sound designer, it's all individual, but typically it is a big give and take between what the director would be asking and the production designer. They will typically work very, very closely together, and the director doesn't always have the specifics of how many steps or, how many feet, but that's not what they're being asked for. It's the feeling of it, right? So you talking about, like, there's a long landing and a short landing and where people turn, and we need to be able to see down into the carpet, where the rug, where Reagan's going to pee, and we're going to need to see the front door. Like, all of that stuff is taken into account.
Yes.
Yeah, and just how often we are here at the nexus of this house, right? The very center of it.
Yeah, and it's
the mitochondria of the house.
There you go, right? Yeah. Or the nucleus? Or?
Yeah, it's the nucleus.
I was like, should I call it out?
No, it's the endoplasmic reticulum of the house, for sure.
There we go. That's what it is. Yeah. It's the ribosome. No. But, like, yes, as Kenan says, this is absolutely a set, but it is done so expertly. It's designed so expertly as to, like, make us constantly forget that this is not a real house, right? And it does give, like, our characters this kind of like excuse to be on different levels when they're talking to each other and everything. Yeah. But all engineered by Blatty and Friedkin and the designers.
Bill Malley, yeah.
Yes, right. Wait, say his name again.
Bill Malley, yeah.
Now let's see. But yeah, so we're back with Sharon, and she's running up the stairs with the doctors trailing behind her, right? Did she give her the medication that she needed? Yes. What was it? It was Thorazine, and before that it was Ritalin. Now, Thorazine is used specifically for, like, mood disorders, schizophrenia, psychotic disorders. It says, like, the manic phase of bipolar disorder, right? So that's what that is, right? And it's obviously not working here, right? We can hear that it's not working, right? Now, I like how Sharon comes up to the door and she sort of puts her, like, whole body up against it, right? She knocks really, really quick, and then she leans in close, right? And she says, Chris, doctors. And the door opens. And from here, we cut to inside the room. And we see that Chris has opened it. Sharon is the first to get inside, but she barely gets in. She's sort of like hugs the wall. And she steps aside to let, the doctors in. But her back is up against the wall. And she's got this look on her face. I love this look. She is shocked and appalled, which makes me wonder. It's like, okay, what was going on in the room before she left to answer the door that now this shocks her? Like it's something new, right?
Right.
Like she's got this look on her face like, oh my God, now what is she doing?
But all that posture of hers, all that body language really speaks to. I mean, you could feel her fear, right, as she's gripping the wall, etc.
Yes.
But it also feels very protective. Like this is to protect Chris or Reagan or something, right? Like I have a plan. When I go in there, I'm going to go directly along the wall there, and it's going to help them, right?
Yes.
I like that she says when she knocks there, she says, "Chris, doctors." I think that is again. I teach screenwriting students, and this is something always I like teaching screenwriting students because I can remind myself as I'm writing, these really basic things. But like I think beginning screenwriters or inexperienced writers, and I'll even put that myself in that to some extent, right? Like you'll feel compelled to use full sentences all the time,
right? Yes,
right. Like, Chris, it's me. The doctors are here, right?
Yeah, right. The doctors are here to see what's wrong with Reagan,
right? Exactly.
Your daughter.
You want to be really clear, right? So you have full sentences when they're not needed, right? And so like. Right. When a screenwriter can put themselves in the character's position and really just think about what they would actually say, you get real gems of human behavior. Chris, doctors.
That's all she needed.
Right.
Yeah. And she's like, she also doesn't have time, right? She doesn't have time to give a whole like story about, Dr. Taney and Dr. Klein are here and they they drove in a little blue bug and
Exactly. Does she have the time? Does she have the energy to say more than
right. Also that, right. And she's trying to get back into that room to help Chris and help Reagan like as quickly as possible. And again, like Keenan, thank you for pointing this out. We see a lot of like looks of like fear and like shock and everything like that. But like try to count how many times this fear is like for the character's own safety versus how much it is for like the safety of someone else, right? We talked about like in the previous minute, we talked about Reagan like trying to hold it together in that hospital when that machine was just like going at her and anybody else, like I myself would be screaming, but she's holding it in, not for herself, but like probably to like not distress mom too much, right? Like all of these characters are like in this horrible, like scary situation, but like they're still like considering the other characters. It's like, and if there is like this wide-eyed look of terror or horror, or if there is a scream, it's usually, out of like concern or fear for another character.
Right. This is jumping way ahead, but I'm thinking of one of my favorite bits in the movie when Father Merrin sees Reagan for the first time, and it is exactly what you're talking about. Yes, there's I'm afraid of this, but more of what Max von Sydow is doing is like, oh, this poor girl.
Yes. Right. Oh man, I cannot wait to get to talk about him again when he shows up again.
Or if he does, we don't know. Maybe Father Merrin. Maybe he's gone.
Spoilers. Yeah,
He's in Iraq having a great time.
Yeah, he's just having a great time with Jesuit Dean. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so now we're back in the room, right? Sharon has this look on her face like whatever Reagan is doing, and we don't see it yet, but whatever Reagan is doing is not what was going on before she left, right? So this is new and this is shocking, right? And she is like scared, like she is shocked, but she is also like scared for Reagan. You can see that, right? And whatever it was, it seems to be ramping up, whatever's going on that bed, right?
Right.
Now, we're only on this shot for literally, I think, a second, but I wanted to talk about some stuff. Firstly, the like position of the camera is very low, almost as if we are at the foot of the bed. And I'm reminded of that moment earlier when we saw the shaking bed, and there feels like maybe the camera is like this third presence watching Chris watch Reagan, right? And I don't know if we can say the same thing here because it's so quick and the camera doesn't turn, to see Reagan or anything. But I found it interesting that we're in not the exact same place, but like a similar place, down low level with the bed, right?
We're
like
certainly not in Reagan's position because then Sharon would be looking at us.
At us, right? Yeah. So
she's looking past us.
Yes. The camera does sort of like move into position as the door opens, right? But that's where it stays. And I'm also noticing like what Chris and Sharon are wearing now. and maybe this is a silly thing for me to latch onto, but like they look really nicely dressed for something like for such a like a physically, mentally, emotionally fraught moment as this. But that sort of leads me to believe that the attacks have not been so numerous and so violent that it disrupts their normal lives.
Right, like they've woken up for breakfast, and they didn't think this was going to be happening today, right?
Precisely, right? Like you were talking about before, like maybe a younger, just starting out, screenwriter or director, or cinematographer might or costume designer, right? Might have them like looking all disheveled, like they haven't slept in days or whatever, right? But like we're knowing that this is ramping up. This is getting worse and worse and worse, right? This is a highlight, but like, yeah, maybe they woke up and it was a normal day and they were having breakfast and then suddenly this happened.
And we also would know, the more experienced filmmakers would know, well, we're going to get there. We're going to get to the part where all of our characters are up for days and haven't slept, but that's not this yet. So we don't want to go back to the well, or as our old acting teacher, Michael Tyler, would say, we don't want to blow our load too early.
Oh, Michael Tyler.
Which was, that's like a riflery term, but not the way Michael Tyler would say it.
No. I don't think Michael Tyler was thinking of rifles. No. Folks, you can watch Michael Tyler's movies. Go and and look him up. He's great. Yes. But I went to him after I think he did it was a Shakespeare play. And I told him,
Like It, I want to say.
Yeah, it must have been As You Like It, yeah. And I told him it was so great. And I was in the middle of choosing. I was like going between majors. I was like an English major, heading towards like double majoring in Japanese because I was going to go over there and everything. And I was sort of like leaving the acting world behind. And then I saw that play. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, Mr. Tyler, like after seeing your performance, you made me want to get back into acting. And he looks at me and then he kind of goes, oh, Jesus. And he sort of rolls his eyes.
Perfect. That's perfect, Michael Tyler.
That is classic Tyler.
Yes, that's our acting teacher. One of our acting teachers. You could look him up, and he was on The Bold and Beautiful and the bunch of soap operas he's known for. But he was really great.
Yeah, awesome.
A lot of people my age knew him as the lieutenant governor on Even Stevens, which is one of his best performances, I think, for sure. But they said this LaBeouf kid, he's going places.
There we go. But yeah, so go check out Michael Tyler. He's awesome. Okay, yeah. In any case, we cut from this shot to a shot of Reagan on the bed as she is being whipped back and forth, up and down, bending up into a sitting position. I'm realizing now it's hard to like describe. She's like her the bottom half of her is like fixed to the bed, I guess, and her upper torso, or like where she bends at the waist, it's almost like she's doing sit-ups without doing them, I guess.
Yeah, like if she were like a gummy worm and we were holding the tail of the gummy worm and flicking it back and forth, right? Yeah, she's sort of doing this S shape with her body, which is very uncomfortable even to look at.
Yes. Or like maybe L shape. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or well, no, because it's so much force. She's being flung forward and flung backwards. And yes, folks, you've probably heard about this specific scene before. In fact, I believe we mentioned it in a previous minute back when like the bed was shaking. Fans of The Exorcist know that this scene right here is one of the famous injury scenes. So what we're looking at from like a special effects point of view, we have Linda Blair strapped into a harness. It's hidden within that blue... is that like her nightgown, or is that supposed to be like the top sheet of the bed? Because like it's the exact same color of the bed, but it's like wrapped around her like it's a dress.
I think it's a dress, but you're right. It sort of blends into the bed. Yeah, it looks like not quite a nightgown, or it's not like a kid's nightgown, but it all has that same sort of feel. It's sort of hospital blues.
Right. She has a nightgown later, but like actually also like when doing later minutes, I was looking and it's like, no, that is part of her dress. Right. That is the weirdest looking dress though. Like it stops like there's a design pattern that stops like right above her chest, and then just the rest of it is all like just blue. Like what is that even? Like I don't know, whatever. But yeah, in any case, like that's where her harness is, right? It's hidden inside that blue thing.
Right.
And what it is, I've heard it described in several different places, and I've read about it. Like, it's this plastic mold of her back. So they made this like mold of her back to perfectly fit the contours of her back, and then they strapped her into it. I'm guessing, like, I've never seen this thing, so I can only like visualize it as other people have described it. I'm imagining like a corset, like there are laces on the side, maybe like that's kind of like what's happening in my mind, right?
And as they describe it, I mean, maybe I don't know if it's just because I know something went wrong, but as you read about the thing, it sounds like it's all wrong because there'd be no give in this device. You get that same feeling, right? Yeah. There's no flexibility to the part that's attached to her, which seems wrong to me.
There should be flexibility there, right? And so they strap her into this thing. They lace her into, like, that's how it was termed. And then they have like a couple of guys pulling this harness and like tugging on it back and forth, and that's what you're seeing here in this shot, right? Now, it's either in this shot or the next one coming up in just a second. I think it's the next one, actually, where the lacing of the harness has come loose. And so now that hard plastic mold that was supposed to stay like strapped to her back, right? It's supposed to be like, it's molded to her back. It's supposed to stay there, right? Now that has separated. And so now each time the crew guys like pull, that back piece is like smacking Linda in the back harder and harder. And now they're like going in opposite directions. So while she is falling back down on the bed, the device has like already like reached that point in its like trajectory, and now it's coming back up. And so they're meeting, and like it's cracking her in the back. And apparently it took a really long time for anybody to notice what was going on, even though like Linda Blair was screaming in pain, and they just thought she was like acting, and she was doing a really great job. And like even though like at some point, and Linda recalls this in an interview later, that she's pretty sure she started shouting Billy for like Billy Friedkin. And eventually they realize what's going on, and they cut, and you can now see, like, I'll post it in the show notes. There's some behind the scenes footage of what happened after they cut. It's all silent, but it's like somebody else with a camera, like, and they've just been walking around like on set, and you see like all this behind the scene. You see like the makeup tests, and you see like the vomiting and how they do that, and the floating and everything. But you see this exact shot, like I think the next one,
I believe so, yes,
but you see that shot where it hurts her, and you see them cut, and you see Linda is in tears, and they rush over to help her. Like, but seeing that, I'm like, oh my God, that made me so mad, because she looks in so much. She looks like she's in so much pain. All for this like one shot in the movie, right?
Yeah, safety gets me very upset, and I know this is from 50 years ago, and I like to think that this type of thing that had a mishap has helped to contribute to a more safe environment, because one of the things again, there's best practices, so don't take my word for, if you're trying to set up a stunt on your movie right now, don't take my word for it. There are best practices you can find online, but nowadays, I mean, almost always the actor is told ahead of time that they're allowed to call cut, which would be, in this, or like in sex scenes now, where we have stunt coordinators and we have intimacy coordinators. This is what we have, basically the same idea, if you're familiar with how a stunt coordinator works, but for sex scenes or kissing scenes, we have an intimacy coordinator that the actor is allowed to cut. And that would have helped here. Because I've become friends with a special effects worker, a special effects designer and special effects puppeteer who is working on a similar problem on, don't tell him I always get it wrong, which Nightmare on Elm Street it was. I believe it's Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Okay.
Maybe where where Freddy Krueger is, they built a giant Freddy Krueger puppet, like bigger than life, and then they have some of the souls of the people he's murdered coming out of his skin.
Oh,
it's a really famous sequence. It's very, very good, but I always forget. But Robert Englund is like being punished by the souls inside of him, and so there was a mishap with the rig that was cutting into Robert Englund's neck. And then so he's going right, but of course you're like, oh, that just looks like that's what we've asked him to do, is to have this reaction. Right? So similar here, it's like, well, we've asked her to act like she's in pain, right? And then when she's in pain, what do we do? So now there's the best practice is to let them cut or whatever code word they're going to say, but usually just cut. Cut. Yeah.
Because if you're like in that situation, there's no reason for Reagan McNeil to shout cut.
Right.
So that would be
exactly. There's reasons for her to say it hurts, stop, right? Which is awful to think about. Like she's actually saying that. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, for her to say cut.
That wouldn't. Yeah. So that would be an immediate like signal to stop everything.
Right.
Ugh. Yeah. But like, so yeah. In this clip, Keenan. So have you seen this clip yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. Okay. I want to show you. I'm going to show you on the air right now, but I want you to guess first, right? In this clip, in this behind the scenes clip where they finally cut and you see her crying, who do you think is the first one to run up and help her? Who do you think is the first person to run and try to comfort her as she's sobbing in pain?
I would guess her movie mother.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's crying. Yeah. That's very clearly cries. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, folks. Like now that I'm looking at it again, maybe it's going to be at your discretion whether or not you want to watch this. I just made my co-host watch it.
That's pretty rough. That's not
because I have to share my pain.
Yeah, that looks incredibly painful. And then it's Ellen Burstyn who goes right up to her. To take care of her.
So maybe I'm going to put like a trigger warning and say, hey, like this is actually like, worse than anything you're going to see in the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. But like, makes me so, I'm like my blood is boiling just again, just seeing that again. But even if this machine didn't malfunction, even if this machine didn't like come loose and start slapping her in the back, just look at like what's going on. Like, you hear about like, did you hear this, this anecdotal story about like how, Linda Blair injured her back doing this stunt. And you look at that stunt in the movie. I'm looking at this minute right now. And I'm like, yeah, of course she did. Right. Like, even if it works right, you would expect like, some kind of like whiplash or something like that. That is just like way too hard, way too rough. But no, it's actually because the thing got like, separated from her back and it was like thwacking her in the back, which sounds terrible.
Yeah. Now, you and I are actors. Actors are crazy, right? And they want to do stunts and they want to do things and they want to push themselves because they want to be committed to the character, which is not so. It's not what normal people would do, right? That's the nature of it, and that's why you need protocols to protect actors against their judgments like this. Because you could see a Friedkin talking to Linda Blair, who's 12, 13, and being like, hey, isn't that going to be so cool? Like, we're not going to do this for we're not going to use the puppets that we've made, which there are puppets on set that look like Linda Blair. We're not going to use that. It's going to be you, and it's going to be so great. And Linda Blair, and maybe even her mother, right? Are like, yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Right.
There's reasons why unions have been clearer about this, about what's allowed. There's reasons why we've developed stunt people too. And again, there were stunt people on set who were doubles, right? So
I was going to bring that up. I was like, why? Like, are we like, okay, so this minute has a lot of stuff. Like we're going to see another voice. We're going to see like definitely Linda Blair's in there. Right. And I wanted to check in with you, Keenan, because I was looking really, really hard. Is Eileen Dietz in this minute at all?
I don't believe so. I think this is all Linda Blair. I think it's all Linda Blair and puppets.
Why?
I don't know. Like, obviously,
we talk about having a body double. We talk about having her do like the the more difficult, more taxing stuff. Like she slaps Ellen Burstyn across the room later. Right. She is also fitted with the device that makes her like spew pea soup. Both of them were folks. It was Linda and Eileen Dietz. Right. So if she's doing all that. And now I sound like an asshole. I'm like, yeah, put her in the machine. No, I don't mean that.
Right, but she's a stunt person specifically. Yeah, I mean, like she's hired.
And she's an older, like she's an adult at this point, right?
That's true, right?
Yeah, she's like 20-something years old versus Linda Blair, who's what, like 14 at this stage? Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, why would you do that? Well, I suppose it makes the movie better because we could see it's really her and our eyes are our eyes are always trying to figure out the tricks that the filmmakers have done in us, right? But yeah, can we see the difference here? I don't know.
The hair is whipping back. That like I can't see like even pausing it and everything like that.
Right, you're still unclear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't need it to be real. We just need it to look real, and those are two different things.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, Ellen Burstyn comes in to console Linda. And we're talking about the behind the scenes clip here,
Right.
not the and my question is, where's Friedkin? Where's the special effects guy? Where is anyone else to help this poor girl?
Yeah, it's in Friedkin's defense, he's probably at a monitor all the way the hell over across the room, which sucks,
okay.
But that's not cool either. Like oftentimes the director will try to put the video village, the monitor where the playback is, close to the actors, and that's often like an intimate or really emotional scenes that want to be close enough that they can go and
right.
But here in a stunt scene they've decided not to, I guess. Which again is a problem. If you and I were on set, we could criticize Friedkin and say like, well then why are you all the way the hell over there?
More than criticizing,
right? When we have why have you decided to be all the way the hell over some other place when we have a 14-year-old girl who's doing a really tough stunt here?
Right. Yeah. Right. But actually, before we even get to that shot of, the infamous injury shot that cuts away right before, she starts crying.
Right.
We have the first shot of her, being whipped back and forth. And then we get this other shot, this reaction shot of all of them at the doorway again. And from left to right, we got, Sharon, who it seems like the initial shock has worn off. And now she's just in normal shock, staring at Reagan going up and down on the bed.
Right.
And we got, Dr. Taney in the back there. And this is the very first time he has ever seen Reagan.
Right.
Right. This is his introduction to her. And the expression on his face is really good. He's squinting, but his eyes are also somehow wide and intense. How do you do that? How do you squint your eyes and also have them be wide?
I think it's those great glasses he's got on.
Yes. So those are magic glasses right there. And then you got Dr. Klein, who has a history with Reagan at this point, right? He's seen her acting up in his office. Listeners will remember that she once advised him to keep his fingers away from her goddamn cunt.
Lester.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. But his expression seems to be one of puzzlement or maybe it's dawning realization that this is not what he thought it was. Right. We can't help but feel a little bit of satisfaction at this dopey look that he's giving. We're now do you see, you dumbass?
Right.
This is what we were trying to tell you the whole time.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't listen.
It's great that we have that we get that, we get to feel superior, right? We get
validated.
To feel really smart. Yeah. Validated is a good way of putting it. Yeah. And then I don't know about everybody. I'm sure in the theaters there'd be a difference of opinions, but when he's about to get smacked across the face, when he we'll talk about that, but he that I don't want to say I feel horrified by it, but I can also understand how someone in the theater would be great, that has happened.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it is. Yeah, that's a mixed bag, and yeah, we're gonna get to that in just a second. But yeah, so at least right now, we're feeling just a little bit of satisfaction because he is finally seeing this, right? And to that point, that's what Chris should be saying right now, right? It's you now do you see, right? But she is so caught up in the horror that all that she can do is stare at her daughter in this helpless, heartbreaking way. And looking at her, depending on where your eye falls in this lineup, which is only on screen for 2 seconds. I timed it, right? So you're only going to have time to see one, maybe two of these people, right? So you might see Sharon, you might see Dr. Taney, you might see Dr. Klein, and you might see Chris, right? Most likely your eye is going to fall on Klein and or Chris.
Right. Agreed.
Klein is almost front and center, almost, right?
Yeah. And he's the closest to the center. He's also the tallest. There's more light on him. We see more of his face than Chris.
Yeah. Right. And Chris's expression is the most different from all the others, right? All the others are shock and horror, and hers is anguish and distress and fear for her daughter. So depending on where your eye falls, you might get this pang of pity and empathy where you think, oh, this is a scary scene. Everyone is scared. But then you see Chris and you feel for her and Reagan. And then you're right back to being shocked again. It's almost like your emotions are being jerked around by some asshole movie director.
He's manipulating my feelings. That's not what I paid for.
No. Cut.
No, but I am joking. That's exactly what we pay for. You're paying some magician, right, to fool you and to trick you into seeing.
And things, it's all fake. And but you want to have your fun,
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so now we cut from there. We cut from them looking to another shot, and it's kind of like what I'm losing all terminology, Keenan. It's like a frontal we're not looking at Reagan from the side anymore. We're looking at her like straight up and down, right? As she's whipping back and forth.
Right. It's unusual. It's hard to describe it. When she's sitting up, it would be something like a medium shot of her, like would be typically like a medium close that we'd be familiar with. But she's whipping back and forth away and towards us. That it's really defying like our abilities to describe it, right?
Yes. So it's almost like she's like coming towards the screen at us and then whipping away, right?
Right. Like in a bad 3D movie, this would be the big thing.
Oh, yes. If they ever made this 3D, this would be one of the things, like just her head coming out and in and out and in.
Gross.
Oh God. No, don't want that. No. But so yes, folks, we already talked about it before, but this is the shot where, like, notice how short it is. And that's because, like, this is the shot that made it into the film that this is where she got injured. And it's just like seconds after, we have cut away to another shot. Like she's in another dimension. She's like bawling her eyes out because of how horrible this was.
I mean, and you're right. Now I'm looking at this one like this. There's no reason for this to be. We don't know what the original plan for the shot would have been if everything had gone well, but there's no reason that this needs to be Linda Blair. It's so quick. Her movements are so quick. Her face is just a blur.
And it's covered by hair.
Right.
Like everything's covered by her hair. This could have been, this didn't even have to be Eileen Dietz. This could have been a dummy.
It looks like it, yeah.
Could have been like a dummy with like ragdoll arms. Just do that and that's all you need, right? Oy. But yeah, so from this shot, right, this infamous injury shot, right, we cut back to our lineup and the expressions have changed now. You'll notice that we'll go from left to right again, right? Sharon's initial terror is giving way to this expression of pity for like what we could say, and I think we have hinted this in previous minutes, right, is almost like her little sister, right? Sharon is more than just a secretary. She is also Reagan's tutor, and she takes care of her while Chris is at work. And now she's looking at this girl who, like, maybe not like blood related, but she is certainly very close to and cares a lot about. And then we got Taney, and his expression has softened a bit too, right? Although he still has this look of like clinical puzzlement, but there is some like, I don't know, like recognition that he's looking at a suffering little girl, right? And my favorite is actually Klein.
Right.
Keenan, like, do you see this look that like he has right now? It's this look of pity now that he sees Reagan, but also this, I don't know, like this resolve, this determination, like this cannot continue. I have to do something about this.
Agreed. I think this is what's going to make that slap that's going to come in a couple of shots even more effective, is that we get just the feeling that Klein, again, non-verbally, has been like, this is my fault. And I am taking this on properly, right? He's realized this is not. It's not like the previous shot is a little bit like, oh, how embarrassing, how wrong I've been, and now this is like, well, I'm a doctor. This is I have to do this, right?
Yes, this one look again, like we're holding on to them for like 2 seconds, but this one look actually made me question all of my like previous like judgments on the character of Dr. Klein. I don't know. I want to hate him so much, but like this look that he's giving, it hit me like maybe this is a good guy and he's just like way out of his depth. Right.
Yeah. And he's center punch, as you said, or close to it. He's like the hero of these shots, right?
Yeah.
He's going to fix this.
And actually, yeah, like good point, Keenan. Like if we had not gotten this look from Klein, then the thing coming up where he gets slapped might hit a little differently, right?
Right. But yeah, if you take this shot out of context and showed it to somebody who had not seen The Exorcist, know anything about it, right? This guy is the hero. Right. He's
like he has this like stern look. Right. Yeah. Right.
He's the dude. He's the dude in the middle. He's coming to protect these ladies, right?
And lastly, speaking of ladies, we got Chris, and again, it's just this look of pain and anguish. Like she is so helpless in this situation, and also like so like trusting and reliant on these doctors to do anything to help her daughter. And if you watch, she looks to Klein for help, or maybe just to make sure that he's finally seeing what she's been seeing, and then back to looking at Reagan. And then we are back to looking at Reagan. But
yeah, it's not a cut. I just want to. It is a pan over from them. So we're in this shot, and then they sort of freeze. It feels it's odd in a good way, I think. They sort of freeze, and the camera pans over to Reagan, and then we get to see like this extraordinary, incredible, unnameable thing that's happening to her. Right.
Yeah. Right. Like, yeah. It's like Keenan's right. The camera does this weird, like dizzying turn, right? As if a person is turning their head, right? Looking, from them back to Reagan. And now,
and the adults are just frozen. They can't do anything. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Reagan is bouncing up off the bed in a way that she can't be doing on her own. Keenan, is this more harness stuff? I looked and I could not find anything on this specific effect. This is different from what, like, where she's like strapped into the harness.
Right. I could not find it either. I don't know. I'm not an effects person. I'm not a stage magician. Perhaps someone is bumping the bed from underneath.
That's what I thought. At first I thought the bed must be like bucking in a way that tosses her up, but like I'm focusing my eyes on the bed, and the bed
is not moving. Yeah. Except when Reagan falls down, right?
Right.
So it's not like a trampoline that someone is underneath pushing on or anything like that. Yeah.
Right. So like, but it couldn't be. It couldn't possibly be like strings or anything like that, because
that I'm not sure. But then it also can't be Linda Blair just doing it on her own, because she's not putting enough weight on any part of her body to throw herself up like that. So
right, you would see her like muscles tensing up to make the jump. Right. So yeah, like
it must be strings or harness. Then yeah, back to the others. Yeah,
like, or it really is just Captain Howdy. But yeah, okay. So like, so we were talking before about like the logistics of Captain Howdy, right? Mm-hmm. So what's happening here? Like, let's put on Dr. Taney's magic glasses, right? And we can suddenly see Captain Howdy. Is he inside Reagan, like bouncing around, or is he like by the side of the bed, like slamming her up and down with his hands,
like pulling her up? Pulling her up and down. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. I don't know. Because Reagan can say things like, he's trying to kill me, he's doing this to me. But what does she experience? Does Captain Howdy have 5 arms? That would be the only way to explain what's going on here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And again, like, there's no right or wrong answer for this. Like, it is not resolved in either the book or the movie or the screenplay or anywhere. Like, what is going on here? My initial thought was that like he's inside and he's just like making the body jump, right? But like there are those passages in the book that talk about like Reagan being chased around the house by Captain Howdy, and Captain Howdy is like kicking her and pinching her and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know if this is like even the book in this moment talks about like it looks as if somebody is like picking her up and violently slamming her down back onto the bed.
Right, and that's not quite what we get in the movie.
Right. So again, like the book and the movie are slightly different in this situation.
Now, if Captain Howdy is in her body and making her do these flips and things, then what do you make of this next shot where we see something change in Reagan?
Okay. Well, then of course, then it has to be him.
He has outside.
To be inside.
Wait, that he is inside?
Yeah.
Well, but so we get her flinging around, and then we get this close up of her face, and her eyes have turned white.
Yes.
The effect is as if we've seen them turn white in front of us, but that's not we just have white contacts on her eyes, right?
Right.
So she has white, but the effect is that we see it happening, that we get this close up of her and we've seen it, right? It tricks us into thinking that they turn white in front of our eyes, but that's not what happens.
Right.
But so then what is this? This isn't Captain Howdy going from outside Reagan into Reagan? Like, what is the significance of her eyes turning white in front of us?
Oh yeah, that's a good question too. Like, is that the moment of like entry? Like Captain Howdy was outside and he was like tossing her around, and then he like jumps inside, and that's the voice, that's the eyes, that's the whole thing. Or could it be that Reagan is on the bed, Captain Howdy is already inside her, and they're fighting, and that's the moment where like Reagan's eyes are white. That's the moment that Captain Howdy won
and got control of her. Yeah.
Now he has control. Right?
Yeah.
But he was inside her the whole time.
And so this flailing about is like a result of them fighting in the astral plane inside of her soul or something.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's these moments here that make us, again, not when you're watching the movie like a regular person, but we're watching like a crazy person. Then it's like, so how much is Reagan in control when she tells the astronaut he's going to die up there and piss?
Right.
Is Captain Howdy entirely in control of her there, or what? Or is he like, hey, Reagan, it'd be really cool if you tell that guy he's going to die up there. And she's like, up where? Who is this guy? Oh, just trust me. It's going to be really funny.
This is a prank. It's this new thing called TikTok. It's gonna be great. I'll be outside of you. I'll be filming it with the phone. It's like
You're going to be filming me with a phone. You say, Captain Howdy.
Yes, a rotary phone. It's attached to the wall. Captain Howdy, sometimes you say things that don't make any sense at all. No, it's great. Time and space have no meaning to me. Come on. But yeah, actually. But no, I like that because maybe it's because of the limitations of the of what we are capable of, but we can interpret it either way, right? We can say that Captain Howdy is outside of her and he's like flinging her around, and then he jumps inside, and that's when the eyes change. Or we can say that, like, you know, he's inside the whole time and they're kind of like duking it out, like you say, on the astral plane, right? I feel like, and yeah, we're going to talk about this remake very, very soon, folks. Or reboot, like
you just
people
love it. You love that we have to talk about this reboot
or sequel, because they're saying sequel now.
It's a requel. It is a reboot that's a sequel.
Oh, fuck off!
The last time I told you that, you said the exact same thing. The last time I said the word requel, you had the exact same. You'll find it on the tape now.
The evidence is there, folks. Oh, God. Yeah. Stenographer, will you play that back? Oh, fuck off. Oh, God. Okay, but
like the Ghostbusters reboot with the Ghostbusters reboot with Finn Wolfhard is a reboot and a sequel because it still exists in the world of the first Ghostbusters, but it's
and this is when Captain Howdy enters me.
And I don't know. So Halloween has done this several times where it's been a reboot / sequel where they've deleted previous sequels. So I think The Exorcist might be like that. I think they're deleting Exorcist 2 and 3. And then
I'm sorry. I'm going to try not to sigh. Okay. I'm realizing this is an,
I believe so. I
an
don't
oral
know.
medium.
I don't know, but
and people can hear my disdain.
Oh, isn't it terrible when people can hear and see your bodily form? Isn't that just the most embarrassing? Yeah, I believe that they're deleting 2 and 3. I haven't looked into it too much because, like you, I'm not particularly interested in seeing the Exorcist reboot / sequel, but I'm not as angry as you about it.
Yeah,
because I'm just not going to see
interested
it.
For the you are going to see it. We're going to go see it.
Oh God,
you have a responsibility, Kenan.
I guess so. I'm a journalist now, and I have a responsibility.
No, we're both going to see it, folks. But yeah, like the TV show also did that, where it kind of like redacted a bunch of stuff. And we're going to talk about the TV show at some point too. And I don't like I am not sure about our listeners' feelings about any of the other offspring of this movie. So, you know, I get like, you know, I don't want to say yay or nay. Like there is some good that I have seen in each of these things, but then I have my larger opinions about them. And yeah, like I think it is our responsibility to talk about them. Maybe not do like a whole like minute by minute thing of Exorcist 2. You guys don't hate us that much and we don't hate you that much, but yeah, we'll definitely talk about them. Yeah. But so what I was trying to say is that, like, you know, in this requel,
you said requel.
That was harder to say than goddamn cunt. But no, like in that version, with all of the technological advances that they have, they could actually like force us into a choice. They could say, oh, no. Like Captain Howdy is definitely outside of her and he's flinging her around. And you can see by the way that like her body moves through the air that like it looks as if an invisible pair of hands is like shaking her around. Right. Or she could like be like contorting and floating in a way that it's like, oh, no, he's definitely inside her, like piloting her, you know?
Right.
And that is the, you know, the wonders of our current technology, and we can force a viewer to be like it's one or the other. But here, it's up to us to decide like when has Captain Howdy like fully taken possession, right? Is this a fight on the astral plane? Is this like an invisible person like punching and kicking somebody? Or you know, like what?
Yeah, which would be more like a poltergeist, right? If it's from the outside and can't do anything else, right?
Right. But so now. From here, we cut to a close-up on Reagan's face. Well, actually, so she falls into frame, and we see that her eyes have gone completely white. And again, we are ramping up the scare factor here. This is the first time that we've seen something like this. This is a new and terrifying thing. Each time we see something, it's a step up from the last thing we saw, right? Like if we go all the way back, we got noises in the attic. We got Captain Howdy moving the planchette. We got Reagan saying that her bed was shaking. We got more noises and a killer candle. We got peeing on the rug. We actually see a shaking bed. Then we got Reagan cursing. We got her spitting in Klein's face, right? And then we got this scene. And this scene has like 3 things that is just like boom, 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 right? Like if you thought that this was still like what did he say? Like a temporal lobe thing.
Right, a
whatever,
lesion.
A lesion, right? Like then, just take a look at all of this, right? Where do they get a load of Captain Howdy, right?
Now, last time you said there were 2 things, but your new math made you give us 3 things. So now you're saying there's 3 things. So is the new math going to have to give us 2 things?
Well, no. Like,
I don't understand this new math, Lester.
I don't either.
I don't know what new math is.
I couldn't make change for the bus with this new math.
I've been hearing about new math since I was a kid, and I remember adults complaining about new math.
Is it still new?
I think they did. I think it was like new Coke. They did away with it.
Okay.
And they're like
math zero.
That we just loved math classics so much more. It became a big hit again. I've been to the Coca-Cola. Have you had new Coke?
I don't remember. Okay, so I only like diet.
We've talked about how my favorite food is Coca-Cola. That's not weird at all. So I went to the Coca-Cola Museum, and there they gave you a can of new Coke. And there was a little display about new Coke, and they had the documents, proving that it wasn't some, this conspiracy theory is that they gave you bad Coke on purpose so that you would remember how much you liked old Coke, right? Coca-Cola Classic. Right. So there's an exhibit about new Coke, and they have this whole thing. They have all the documents there proving that it was not a conspiracy theory and that they really thought new Coke was going to be big.
Yeah.
But Lester, I tried new Coke, and the whole thing was that in America, we started to there started to be dwindling taste for Coke in favor of Pepsi, because there would be things like the Pepsi challenge, right? Where people would drink it blind and they would prefer Pepsi. Pepsi was the preferred taste. So new Coke, I had a can of it.
Yes.
And it tastes like Pepsi.
So Keenan, you're saying on our podcast, The Exorcist Minute, where we examine, extrapolate, and excavate things.
Yes.
You're saying that new Coke is actually just Pepsi.
I swear that new Coke is just Pepsi, and that they were trying to catch up to Pepsi by just making Coke taste like Pepsi. And then that caused people to go, ew, gross, Pepsi, because Pepsi sucks. Even though like Pepsi outsells Coke on the world level. I don't know why, but people, in these blind taste tests. And I'm not saying that this wouldn't happen to me. If you put a blind taste test in front of me, I might say I prefer Pepsi. But right now, I would say, no, Coke is better than Pepsi. So people drinking their new Coke, they're like, ugh. Ew. Oh, gross. It's Pepsi. And they abandoned Coke, and they have all these protests. Like the biggest national protest of our lifetime when we were children was not about civil rights. It was about Coca-Cola.
Oh my God.
Yes. So anyways, I've had it. So
little Johnny, what did they talk about on minute 54? Like, did they talk about Linda Blair's injury?
Yeah,
did they talk about
kinda.
like astral planes and Captain Howdy?
No, but they talked about how they went and saw primary historical documents and did research about new Coke.
Oh, but they couldn't figure out how they did the second bed trick here.
No, they said it's like one of the most studied movies of all time, but they can't do it because the book is too expensive.
So they talked about Coke.
They talked about Coca-Cola.
Oh my God.
Anyways, all right. Tell me.
I hope our listeners are in a charitable, forgiving mood. Guys, Lent is coming up.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Please don't unsubscribe. We need, we promise we will keep this Coke talk in check.
I promise nothing. I love Coca-Cola.
I actually prefer Pepsi. Don't tell Keenan. Keenan, you didn't hear anything.
Well, you lived overseas. They got to you. Over in Asia. They turned you un-American.
Oh boy. that Pepsi? No, I liked it before. I don't know.
Oh, sure.
I was, yeah.
All right.
No, I'll die for Pepsi, and then I'll deny it 3 times. It's like, you there, you're that guy on that show that says you love Pepsi. And so he's like, no, I swear it wasn't me. And then a rooster will crow, and I'll see Pepsi up on the crucifix, and I'll be like, no.
Even though you saw Coca-Cola fixing that guy's ear you cut off.
Oh my God!
Still, you don't believe in Coke.
You don't believe because of your little faith,
right? That was him who cut the ear off, right?
Coca-Cola?
No, Coca-Cola puts the ear back on.
Oh, you're talking about Peter. Yes.
Simon Peter cuts the guy's ear off, right? And then he still denies Coca-Cola 3 times.
Yes.
Okay, good. It's in the Bible.
Oh, I knew we were going to get silly. Oh my God. Okay. We got it. All right. And then, so, like I said, we got this scene, and it seems like all the other scenes have been kind of like leading up to the scene. They've been like teasing us and telling us a story of a troubled child and possibly some supernatural interference. And now we see in this scene several things, one after the other. And each one is even more of a confirmation that something not natural is going on. And then we get this shot with these eyes. And even as we're trying to take that in, the sound kicks in, and we get our first little tease of now a third actor who is working to create this character, right? She doesn't say anything yet. Right. She just makes this like moan that is superimposed with this like wet gurgling sound that could either be a lion or maybe even an alligator. Like if you listen to alligators, they they roar, and it almost sounds like a lion, but it's like very wet and gurgly, right?
I don't think I've heard that before, an alligator roar.
Oh, no. Yeah. Like folks, listen to, and I double checked, like as I'm writing these notes, I went onto YouTube and I was like, alligator sounds. And yes, it sounds just like this, right? It sounds like a lion roaring underwater, right? Or like with its like throat full of water, right? And that's kind of like what I'm picking up here. And then we don't even get to finish taking in that before we get like another spectacle in the form of this like really cool effect where like Regan's neck bubbles out, right? Like it bulges out like a toad. So we got lions and gators and toads.
Now, how do they do this?
Wait. Keenan. I'm just gonna walk back, okay? And I'm gonna say, we got lions and gators and toads. Keenan, this is your Hakuna Matata. I'm setting you up.
Okay.
We're gonna try this one more time.
I think I understand now.
Okay, so Regan's neck puffs out like a toad. So we got lions and gators and toads.
Mother, please.
No.
All right, we got lions and gators and toads. Oh my!
Yes. There you go.
Yes.
Thank you.
I got it. I got it. Not the whole time. No. I eventually figured out what you're saying.
Okay. I'm sorry I called you son of a bitch. How do listeners are like, are they going to get to anything in this movie?
No, we are. I'm very curious about this. Like, how does this effect happen? Because this does look like Linda Blair's face, but there's something going on with her.
Well, God damn it, Keenan! I thought you were going to have the answer.
I don't know. Now you're really mad at me today. No, I don't know. I mean, it seems that doesn't look like a puppet, right? Because she opens her mouth to scream.
Yeah. My guess is that it is. It's got to be like a prosthetic,
right?
Right?
Like a
it's
balloon.
It's like a balloon, and we don't see. Hang on, let me pull it up here. There's a part of her neck that we don't see, and
right.
So my guess is that like there's a tube coming in from the bed, and it is inflating this balloon that has been has been painted over really well.
Yeah, that's got to be what this is. Yeah, it looks like there's veins and stuff in it, right? Or capillaries at least, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a really great makeup job to look like her neck.
Right.
I'm looking at it right now. That looks like her neck.
It sure does. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. And so, yeah, but like we don't see the right side of her neck. So I'm thinking, and she's relatively still in this shot. Although like the cut has kind of like made us think that she's like thrashing around and everything.
Right.
But this one shot where her neck is sort of like puffing up, we don't see like her right shoulder. So I'm thinking there's a tube that goes up through the bed and kind of like into like her into her neck on that side, on her like right shoulder side, and it's blowing up this like rubber balloon that has been made up to look like the rest of her neck.
Right. And like I've said, there are, this is a very well studied movie. And I've looked at a couple of featurettes you could find, especially with like Dick Smith going over the makeup. And those are really pretty fun usually because you get to see the actors in before their day starts, or, before their shooting day starts. I mean, they're in makeup for several hours beforehand, and they're really delighting in their makeup and they're having a lot of fun with it.
Yes.
So it's really cute to see like little Linda Blair being like, "Oh, look at me! It looks so terrible." But I have not seen them do this effect yet.
No, yeah, I haven't either, and I've scoured, I've looked all over. But yeah, to to what you're saying, Keenan, yeah, there's like a behind the scenes thing of Reagan, like, and I think she's like wearing a jacket, to keep her warm, but she's full on in the makeup, and she's looking at the dummy. And she kind of looks at the dummy, and then she looks at the camera and is like,
yeah.
And she makes this cute little kid, like it's just, she's smiling, and like the demon part of it, like just completely is gone. Right. It just evaporates. She has all the makeup. She looks exactly like she looks in the movie, but her expression is just that of this little kid wearing makeup. And she looks so endearing and so sweet. And like that right there, folks, like if you really want to like convince yourself that this is Linda Blair's performance and not just like a bunch of makeup. It's like, oh, you can slap makeup on any kid and they'll do a great job. No, because look at her behind the scenes with all of that makeup and just how like not scary she is.
Yeah.
And how just like cute and just like funny. And she's like making jokes and she's doing all this stuff and she's laughing with the other actors and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her colleagues, like that right there is, definitely do yourselves a favor and look at like, just hop on YouTube and type in, behind the scenes, The Exorcist. And you're going to see a lot of like home movie style stuff with her just being a normal kid.
Right. It's
even with all that makeup.
That's evidence for the idea this is a very strong performance, but it's also evidence for, again, like her statement that she was not exploited, beyond this accident, that she was having a great time. Because people, I know he said this several times, but I think it bears repeating. Like people are like, "Oh, they must have done terrible things to you to get this performance." And she's like, "No, I had a wonderful time. I was in my downtime watching Sally Field on The Flying Nun, and I raised a chicken that I hatched on set, and I had a bunch of free time to do all this stuff, and it was super cool working with Ellen." And yeah, you just want to presume things that this must be one of these tortured performances.
Yes. So Dr. Klein has seen and he has heard enough. And so he walks on over and he's like, all right, let's see what. But we never hear the rest of that because suddenly Reagan is up and she slaps him across the face hard enough to not just send him back a couple of steps, but actually knock him down. He flies back and he hits that door, and that door crashes against the wall and bounces back. And Sharon is down to help him back up. And we hear Chris, and she shouts in this anguish, like it's been ripped out of her. She's like, Reagan.
Yeah. It's a really good stunt here with Barton Heyman flying back, because it looks a lot more painful than hopefully it is, because we land into this door and then the door knocks a bunch of set dressing off, which just makes it feel like so violent. But all it is he's pushed the door against this dresser with a bunch of books, and the books fall down. So we like see all this violent kinesis, and we're like, oh, that must be happening inside of his back.
And we also see that his nose is bleeding.
Oh,
right?
yeah, in the next shot. Yeah.
And his eyes aren't even open at this point, right? His temporal lobes have just been scrambled.
Now, again, similar to how Reagan falls into that shot and we see her eyes white, but she falls into the shot and her hair clears away from her face and her eyes are white, so we swear we've seen them turn white. Similar to that, when Barton Heyman is getting smacked across the face and the part where he falls down to the frame, his nosebleed makeup is already there, but it moves so fast that we swear we see his nose start bleeding in front of us, right? But it doesn't happen. And I do, again, talking about this like sort of false hero moment that we have of Dr. Klein. when he steps away from the pack, right? There's the 4 of them that we've seen. He steps away from them. The camera zooms out with him as he says this heroic thing. And the camera height goes really high as Reagan is coming up. So it's like everything is set up to make us believe this is super fast, right? Like me describing it takes like twice as long as it actually happens.
Right. Yes.
But he has this like power. He's stepping forward. Okay, he's going to take control, and she smacks him across the face. And like everything is making us believe for that half a second that, oh, okay, great, he's taking charge.
Right. And Keenan, you were saying before, you were talking about how like when he gets slapped, you've been like in the room with other audience members.
Well, I just wonder. I have seen the movie The Exorcist in a theater for one of those Halloween revivals, and I can't remember this precise moment, but I could imagine some people in the audience thinking it's funny because how much we don't like Dr. Klein. Right, I just don't know when or
maybe even cheering.
Right. Like, when I see it, like, it's just horrifying. So, but I'm saying like I don't want to say that my reaction is the only reaction where I feel bad for Dr. Klein. Like I think legitimately you could understand why someone would go, oh, great. This guy, fuck this guy. It's his fault.
Yeah. And either way, like however we feel about Dr. Klein, this is happening to tell us, nope. Like you think is like, all right, let's fix this. Right. Nope. Nope.
Right.
That's not how this is going to go.
No more Ritalin, no more shots. Right. Just, yeah.
Yeah. Ritalin me this. Bang. KAPOW, Shazam.
Oh, wow.
A little cartoon speech bubble, it's like hot pink and green.
That sounds like the comeback from a kid who could use some Ritalin. Ritalin me this, Dr. Klein. Pachow, pachow, pachow.
As soon as you say that, that's when your prescription for Ritalin is written. It's like, yep. And before we cut away from this scene, so his nose is bleeding, his eyes are closed, and before we cut away, we hear the beginnings of a voice say, keep away. Right. And because like I paused right there to like get a better look at Klein, I was able to catch Sharon's expression and the look that she gives Reagan. Like when that new voice comes out of her, it's like, it's so perfect. It's this look of like pure terror. And it's different from the look that she gave earlier in the minute when she first entered the room. Like that was also a look of terror, but it was like for Reagan. Right. Whereas this look is like legitimately, this is showing terror of Reagan.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
She is now afraid of this person for whom she has hitherto only felt love, right? And she even backs away like a little bit as she's like helping Klein. And we cut and Reagan finishes what she's saying. We have a close up on her face and she says, keep away, the sow is mine. And again, like this association with like animals, right? But she says it in a voice that is most definitely not her own. Is this the first time we have heard another voice coming out of Reagan?
Yes, I think so. Right. This is the first time.
Okay.
Man, that phrase, right? Sow, that's not something we don't teach kids in America, those terms, right? Unless they're working on the farm. So like in a big city school that she would be taught at, it would just be pig. It wouldn't, we wouldn't have these other farm terms for things, right?
Actually, yeah. So to that point, Keenan, this is one of the arguments that is made for Reagan legitimately being possessed is like she doesn't know these words. Like how is she saying sow? Like when like later on Karis is listening to like a sample of her voice and her vocabulary it has changed completely, right? And now she's saying things like sow and all this stuff, right? And also the kind of like the I don't know what you would call it, like the dissociation, like the sow is mine. Like, so like the doctors are later going to be like, what do you make of this? Like she's referring to herself in third person.
In the third person and with an animal analogy she would not have in her everyday life. Right. Who taught her that?
So very, very, very different. And yeah, like, but there, she must have gotten it from somewhere. It has to be coming from somewhere, right?
Right. Like the flying nun, Sally Field said that in yesterday's episode. Oh, the sow is mine. I'm the flying nun.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God you're here, flying nun.
just apropos of another, it's like, oh, flying nun is like, hey, I'll take 2 ice creams, please, and the sow is mine. Okay, bye-bye.
I've never seen an episode of The Flying Nun. I just assume that she flies in and
says, the sow is mine.
The sow is mine.
And then just...
Right, it's her. I pity the fool. Right, that's her catchphrase.
Yes, right. The sow is mine. Right, or it's an episode where she's on the farm and she just won an auction and she doesn't want this little pig to be turned into bacon, so she's going to take her home as a pet. And she's like, yay, the sow is mine.
The sow is mine. That was me. I was trying that time to do a Sally Field impression. I don't know if that worked.
Oh.
You like me. You really like me now. The sow is mine.
She's holding up the Oscar. That's the sow. That's the... And just in the green room, she's like, keep away. Keep your goddamn fingers away from my Oscar.
Jeez. All right, this field, that's fine. It's yours.
I'm a fucking flying nun.
Nowadays, or at least in some recent ceremonies, they take your Oscar away backstage so they can immediately put on an engraving with your name on it. But they haven't been very clear about that when they did. I don't know if they've done that every year, but they've not been very clear. So like, yeah, you win your Oscar and then some dude comes up, can I take that? Like, what? Like, absolutely not. No. And they're like, no, we'll give it right back. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, they did have Oscars stolen like 15 years ago. The crate of Oscars on the way to the ceremony was stolen. And they found a bunch of them in a dumpster. Once like the police were like, we're looking for these Oscars and there's really big consequences for stealing these Oscars. And then they found them.
Yeah.
They found them abandoned.
Wow. Were any specifically missing? Like,
well, no, this is before.
Like all of them except Sally Fields was there. And...
No, yeah, exactly. No, but this is before they had been given out that year. So these are blank Oscars.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So this scene and this movie have been building up, and again, here's another spectacle. Here's another like evil miracle, right? She is now speaking in a voice that is not her own, right? Leaving us to wonder, if that's not her voice, whose voice is it? Well, from the movie-making side of things, this is none other than Mercedes McCambridge, star of stage, screen, and radio. And I promise we're going to talk about her in later minutes. I want to give her like a proper intro and bio when we finally get some proper scenes with her. For now...
She's one of my favorite actors from the classical days, so this is good.
Yeah, she is great. For now, we just get like a quick peek before she's gone again, and we have Reagan screaming... fuck me. And Mercedes actually comes back for like that second one, right? Like it's three fuck me's in a row. And what I thought I remembered happening was that the first time you hear Linda say it, and then Mercedes, and then both, right? Like the thesis, antithesis, synthesis, right? But it's very clearly just Linda's first line replayed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like it's the exact same sound file. In any case, so now Reagan is on her knees, and she has hiked up her skirt. She's bellowing at our lineup here, which is now all disheveled. Right. Like we still got Klein and Sharon on the floor, and if you look at them, the second time Reagan screams at them in Mercedes' voice, you can see both women have a reaction, right? Like not the first time that she says it, the second time she says it, maybe because of the new voice, I don't know. But the men are still like dazed and confused, right? Klein is, he's still scrambled, and Dr. Taney doesn't know yet what he's seeing. But Sharon has this great reaction. Go back and look, folks. She cannot believe what she is seeing and hearing. She is legitimately terrified, not just by like what's being said and done, but also because it's Reagan, right? And Mom's reaction is even more layered. Like the shot starts out with her looking down at Klein, and then her head whips up, and we get a close-up of Reagan saying, fuck me. And then we're looking at the lineup again, and Chris looks confused, like maybe she didn't hear that, right? And she actually utters this little like, what? Like she says, she's like, what? Right before the demon shouts it again, and she sort of like whimpers and cowers back. She's so shocked she can't even make words at this point, right? She can't even gasp or cry. All that comes out is this little squeak. And Reagan says it a third time, and then is thrown violently down by an unseen force, right? That's when Sharon moves to try to help her, and Dr. Klein is now awake enough to shout, "Get back!" And we get literally just a second of Chris's face as the camera zooms in. And then we're back with Reagan, and she is being whipped violently around. And then there's a cut here. It happens so fast, but it's like really effective. We hear the sound of a slap, and suddenly we're looking at Reagan's face with all these like 3 red marks, like fingers. Are we to take it that she slapped herself? Like that wasn't someone in the lineup,
no,
right?
That's the question I think is whether that has again come from the inside out or the outside in. But this is Pazuzu having done this to her, right? Or this is or whoever.
Yeah, Captain Howdy. I'm just going to keep saying Captain Howdy because we're going to talk about this Pazuzu thing. But like, yeah, but
these series of shots are really interesting. When if you slow down and look at some of them, you're saying that she's whipped around, which is true, but it also is a little bit like she's. I think the movie's going back and forth a little bit between whether these could be explained or not. Like the first shot looks a little bit like she's in ecstasy, like the kind you would have at a church where you speak tongues or something. She's kind of like it's more like dancing, but then the next shot, it's like completely she's being thrown about against her will. It's all over the place is my point.
Yeah. So
we're cutting not only in a series of different shots, like different types of performance takes from her, right?
Right. It's very chaotic and it's very effective. And we don't even hold on that, right? It's punctuated by this scream from Chris, this howl of pain. It's so awful. Here, she is powerless as her daughter suffers, right? And she would guaranteed if there was something there for her to fight, she would fight it, even if it was like a lion or a gator or like a wolf. She would get in there and she would wrestle it off her daughter and she would snap its neck. I have no doubt about that now. But in this situation, there is nothing she can do. And that is its own anguish right there that she can't help. Right. And that scream from Chris, from Ellen Burstyn, like cuts right through.
Yeah, it's a profile of her, and it looks like, say how Orthodox Jews or how you might in the Bible describe what grief looks like. Right.
Yes.
It's like the gnashing of teeth, the tearing of clothes. Right.
It's very you could say it's a very like biblical like image of this just like crying to the sky. Right. This is what a person at their most anguished looks like.
Yeah, she's not crying out to Sharon or to someone to help her, right? It's like none of these people can help her. It's just crying out into the ether, right?
Yeah. And then so we cut to Dr. Klein, a close-up of his hands as he is preparing an injection. And then we see Dr. Taney is now in the room. He is trying to wrestle Reagan back to the bed. And then Karl comes in. Did we notice that? Like, could he maybe have been there the whole time, just like in a corner of the room?
Do you think he's just in Reagan's bathroom? like have you ever been in that situation, like at work, where like you're going to leave, but then someone comes into the bathroom to pee? I don't know if this is you, but I've done this. Like, so you're in the toilet stall and you're done and you're going to get ready to leave, and then but someone else comes out like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and wait until they're gone. So Karl's just been, I'm using the little girl's bathroom and now they're here. It'd just be easier to wait until they are finished.
Oh, okay. So I thought you said I thought what you meant was that like, he dips in there for just a minute and then this like chaos happens and he thinks it's people trying to get into the bathroom to use it. It's like ein Minuten bitte. I'll be out in a moment. It's like, yes, little girl, I know you have to go. I can hear your screams.
I know I should have used my own bathroom. We've talked about this several times.
I'm so sorry. It's like, but when Karl has to go, he has to go. Really doesn't want me in the other bathroom, so I have to. But what you're saying is that this happened way before. Right. Like he was cleaning house, and he
decides to use Reagan's bathroom.
Right, he had a little bit too much coffee.
He's entitled. He cleans the toilet.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's what he was doing. Like he was in there, and you know how you have to go like when you're in the place, right? And he's like, okay, nobody is around. I will just, I just have to go. It's like that coffee just went right through me, and I have to do this. Right. And so he gingerly closes the door, and and then he hears like the footsteps of the people coming into the room, and he's like, oh shit! He's like, no. It's like I have to be quiet. I have to wait for them to go, and then like the chaos happens, and the demon is like. And it just cuts to Karl's face. It's like, I think I'm going to be in here for a long time.
I will have to just
for a very long time. And he's already done.
Oh, he's been done hours ago.
It was actually, Keenan, it was actually a false alarm. There was nothing happening there, right? And He's just like, this is going to be so embarrassing.
Right, exactly. Right. The longer you stay in there, the more committed you are, because then you're like, oh,
Right.
You've been in there for 20 minutes? Yeah, no, much longer.
Yeah. At one point, you have to come out, like, and then they're going to realize it's like, wait,
the whole time,
the whole time,
that's Sally
right?
Field, right?
Yes, I'm sorry, Mrs. Flying Nun. I was there.
We're so close to the end of this, but
we're so close.
But in Mrs. Doubtfire, that I think if Sally Field were not killing it and like giving an actual grounded, real performance where you used to feel sorry for that woman, you would see through. You would just not buy that like half as much as you do. I'm sure some people never buy Mrs. Doubtfire, but like. If you're like, oh, if she's falling it, and this is Sally Field, and she's doing a real performance, and then I guess everyone else must be falling for it because she's.
Oh no, go back, folks. Go back and watch that movie now in 2023. Mm-hmm. Robin Williams is very much the villain. Like I grew up. Like watching this and being like, oh, Sally Field, well, you got to be such a wet blanket, And no, like that is like she is doing the best for her kids. She is trying to be Chris McNeil, like the mom and the dad, because the dad is that Howard?
He brings a donkey to the birthday party. Now you watch like no, how uncalled for.
No,
how do you not at least call your wife to tell her you're thinking about getting a donkey for the birthday party?
Wrecks the whole fucking house, destroys the house, right? And like after he has like walked out on one of the most coveted jobs in Hollywood that you can like it starts out. I forgot because we taped this off of TV, so I didn't even remember this beginning. But he's a voice actor, and he just walks out like, you idiot, you goddamn idiot.
He's a voice actor who gets to record his lines in San Francisco. He doesn't even have to like go and fly down to LA to do it. He gets to live in San Francisco and be a working voice actor for Hollywood.
And apparently just improvise like after the thing has been already animated, which that's not how it works, folks. Just no. But it's like a thing, like he's like on principle because like some like is it the cat or the bird is smoking right? And it's just like no, and he just walks out of like what. Oh.
Right. So now she has to earn both of the incomes and take care of the birthday parties, and he has to bring in the donkey. Terrible. Uncalled for.
Yeah. He doesn't bring home the bacon. He brings home the donkey.
No, Daniel. Miranda is right. You are a terrible father.
Miranda Wright. Yes.
The whole time.
Okay. So
Karl
comes in, and he is also helping to pin Regan down, right? So that Dr. Klein can give her this shot. So the book actually uses him a couple times to show how strong Regan is. There's a couple of instances where, like, first we have established that Karl is very, very strong. He's very powerfully built, right? You might not see it in Rudolf Schundler, the actor here, but in the book he's very like he's got this like very, very strong build, right?
But as Annie Nelson pointed out, he lifts these gigantic water bottles in our movie with like they're nothing. Yeah.
Right. So we can see that, yes. So he is physically able, right? And then we take Karl, he's called in to restrain Regan while someone tries to like administer medical aid, right, or like change the bedding or something like that. And like it's him and it's somebody else always, right? It's either Karis and him or the doctor and him, right? And it's always like they can just barely manage, even with Karl and the other characters trying to hold her down, right? And I guess that's what we're seeing here, right? And so like trying to demonstrate how strong Regan has become. And from here we cut, and once again we are down on the bed looking up, but this is definitely, again, not Regan's POV. We watch and we follow as Dr. Klein strides manfully over to the side of the bed, and out of the corner of our eye we can also see that Sharon is like running to comfort Chris, who is still like, she's still sobbing throughout all of this, while all the while like Regan can be heard screaming like, "Mother, please." And yeah, that is where we must end for now.
Yeah, so much stuff going on. We talked about in the scene with the astronaut how Friedkin puts together these shots of like 5 people at once in their reaction shot. This is similar. Like everyone is going full bore. And he doesn't cast any slouches, right? Everyone's really doing something here.
Yeah. Everyone's got their A game. It's crazy.
Right.
Whew, yeah. And this minute, I think this minute is a little bit longer than other minutes, which is crazy to think about. Like, but my notes, like this minute is like 5,000 words long.
It's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. But yeah, so Keenan, and I hope you say no. Is there anything that we missed?
You know, there's like this scene where Miranda's talking to Daniel, but Daniel's like dressed as Mrs. Doubtfire, you know? All right, let's end this.
Yes. Okay, so folks, this has been another excellent Exorcist Minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark. You can find me on all the socials as just that, Lester Ryan Clark.
And I've been Keenan Diaz, and you can find me on Instagram and at Letterboxd as Howdy Keenan.
Yep. We got our listener group on Facebook, Compelling Conversations. Go check that out. Just a request to join. We'll let you in. It's a great group of people. And then you can be in here with us. It's awesome. All right. Keenan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time, the power of Sally Field compels you.
This has been another wonderful Mrs. Doubtfire Minute. We've been your hosts.
Yeah. Let's just put that in just in case I'm editing and I find out that we have more Mrs. Doubtfire stuff than we.
If it takes like 54 minutes and all of a sudden it becomes the Mrs. Doubtfire Minute, we just don't tell anybody, and then they have to be like, "This has been the Mrs. Doubtfire Minute the whole time, the whole time."
Oh, we don't change the graphic, the thumbnail.
Just from now on, we just pick up on minute 55 of the Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, we don't even do the beginning of Mrs. Doubtfire. No. No, Keenan. What we have to do, Keenan. We're not thinking clearly here. What we got to do, we have to do The Exorcist all the way up until the point where Father Merrin is at the door and he rings the doorbell. Right. And then we expertly move from there to when Sally Field opens the door and it's Uvaginae Doubtfire. That's what we do. Hello. Your mother sucks cocks in hell. Oh, does she know? Oh, well, I think we won't be watching TV after that.
Right.